So you're committed to getting out of debt and staying out of debt. You figured out how much money you have coming in and where all your money's going, and you've created a reasonable budget for yourself so that you can pay off those debts. You've committed to paying only cash. You've gotten rid of your credit cards. But where can you actually cut expenses? What do you get rid of? Here are 10 places to start to cut costs so you can start saving money to get out of debt. Now, you know you have your fixed expenses and your variable expenses, and most people think their fixed expenses are fixed. Don't assume that your fixed expenses are necessarily written in stone. Look at your housing expenses. If you're paying a mortgage, you might be able to refinance at a lower interest rate. If you're paying rent, you might be able to take in a roommate to split expenses with you, or you might have to move to a cheaper apartment farther away from where you work. But you have to be in housing that is affordable to you. And housing's a big problem now. There's a lack of affordable housing. For years, the government told us we should be paying no more than 30% of our income on housing. I don't think I've ever paid less than 50% of my income on housing. Your housing expenses can be reduced. Your insurance expenses can be reduced. You can call your car insurance company and take a look at your policy and see what you might be able to cut out to lower expenses. If you're paying your car insurance monthly, you can save money overall if you pay it twice a year instead. You can look at your homeowner's insurance. If you have an umbrella policy, see what you can trim, see what you might be able to get rid of. Your cell phone plan, you can call the cell phone company and reduce your plan. All these commitments you're signed up for that you think are written in stone can be negotiated and lowered. Your variable expenses are going to be where you do most of your cutting back. So number 2, cut the cable. If you still have cable, if you still have access to 150 channels, it's time to get rid of it. You don't need that. If you have internet, you really don't need cable. And cable got very expensive. It used to be typical that you would bundle your cable in with your internet and with your landline phone. It would be a bundled package. But nowadays, how many people use a landline phone? I mean, my mother still does, but most people just use their cell phones. If you have internet, you really don't need cable. So forget the bundled package. Get rid of the landline phone, get rid of cable. Internet is going to be, it's everything. It's all you need. Number 3, go meatless. I'm not saying you necessarily have to become a vegetarian, but meat is very expensive. I am not in the habit of buying meat, being a dumpster diver and not a meat eater myself, but the other day my kids wanted tacos, so I bought hamburger meat, and I hadn't purchased meat in a very long time, and I was shocked, absolutely shocked at how expensive it was. And I wasn't getting ground sirloin. I got 80% lean, 20% fat. That's a pretty high fat content, and it was really expensive. If you're used to having meat every night for dinner and for some of your lunches, you can save a lot of money by committing to 2 or 3 nights a week having meatless meals. It's not going to kill you, and you're not going to suffer for lack of protein. Number 4, you're going to be buying real food and cooking it. You are not going out to eat anymore. If you're used to going to a restaurant a couple of nights a week or going out for lunch in the middle of the workday, you're not doing any of that anymore. You are bringing your lunch to work with you, and you are cooking dinner at home. And no prepackaged convenience meals. You have to learn to cook. A lot of people don't know how to cook. It's not that hard to learn basic cooking. Nobody says you have to become a Food Network level chef. It always baffles me a little bit when I hear about people not knowing how to cook, because I figure if you eat and you like food, it would be natural to know how to cook. But I actually do know some people who don't know how to cook for whatever reason. But it's not hard to learn to cook. There's zillions of YouTube videos on basic cooking skills, how to scramble an egg, how to make pasta. I think anybody can spread peanut butter on a piece of bread or pour a bowl of cereal or rip up lettuce for a salad. There's really no excuse. Anybody can learn to cook. And that is what you need to do to save the money to get out of debt. You also want to focus on the foods that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. The foods that have the most nutrition but are also the least expensive. So you're looking at potatoes, cabbage, carrots, bananas, rice and beans. Personally, I love rice and beans. I love the way I make rice and beans. I could eat rice and beans every night. People always talk about rice and beans as this kind of stereotype of poor person food, and oh, you just it's just rice and beans, rice and beans, rice and beans. Rice and beans it's like the most delicious dish. It's a great thing that rice and beans happen to be cheap, but that's a delicious dish. Got pasta, apples, peanut butter. You can get a loaf of bread pretty cheap at Aldi or Walmart, but if you're learning how to cook, why not learn how to bake bread? It is not hard to bake bread from scratch. It really isn't. And think of how satisfying it'll be when you slice into your first loaf of fresh, homemade bread. Nothing makes a house smell better than fresh bread baking. That may be cinnamon apples, which is also a very affordable dessert to make at home. By the same token, you want to eliminate those non-nutritive items that are really going to eat up your grocery budget. Let's say you're used to spending $400 or $500 a week on groceries for your family, and you're cutting back to $200 a week for food. You just can't waste the money on something like soda that brings you no nutrition whatsoever. You're not going to be getting your frozen pizzas and all your, your convenience frozen dinners, your chips and your factory-made cookies. I'm not saying you have to go without treats and snacks, but you can make popcorn yourself at home. You don't have to buy the microwave popcorn in the bags. Just buy a bag of loose popcorn kernels and you pop it in a big pot with some oil on top of the stove. Make sure you have a lid on top. Popcorn is probably the cheapest salty snack there is. Corn doesn't have the most nutrition in the world, but popcorn does count as a whole grain. So instead of wasting money on a bag of Doritos or potato chips, make popcorn. Instead of spending money on Oreos or a package of Keebler Elfin fudge stripe cookies, bake chocolate chip cookies from scratch. You're learning how to cook. You're going to want to know how to make chocolate chip cookies. Spending your money on so-called food items that bring you no nutrition is a luxury you can no longer afford. As best as you can, stock up when things are on sale. You have to have a little extra cash to do this, but if you can swing it, when the laundry detergent is on sale, buy a few extra so that you don't have to pay full price the next time you run out of laundry detergent. If you find a great sale on hamburger meat or chicken thighs or whatever it is, stock up, put a few in the freezer. That way you're able to save money in the long run. Meal planning. It really helps you save your sanity and save money if you meal plan, but you're not going to meal plan based on what you feel like having. You're not just going to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to meal plan. And tonight I think I want chicken cordon bleu. And tomorrow night let's have steak. And no, you're not going to do that. No. There's no figuring out what you want to eat and then just going to the grocery store and buying that. You have to look at the store circular. You have to see what's on sale at the grocery store. And then you're going to do your meal planning based on what's on sale and what's the cheapest. And you remember to always look in your pantry first. Work with what you already have. You always shop your pantry first. You need to lower your energy bills. So, winter's coming here in the Northern Hemisphere. Be prepared to turn the heat down. You're not keeping your heat at 72 anymore. You're not going to keep it at 68 anymore. You might need to turn it down to 65 and put a sweater on. Your home isn't supposed to be warm enough in winter to be comfortable going around in a short sleeve shirt. Not how you're supposed to dress in the winter. You gotta wear layers, you gotta put on slippers, you gotta put on a nice warm sweater. The reverse applies in the summer when you want the air conditioning on. I don't even know what people set the thermostat at for their air conditioning in the summer. 75 degrees? Well, try it at 80. 80 degrees is pretty comfortable. If it's 80 degrees outside, that's pretty comfortable. Try it at 82. Try it at 85. You also want to identify your electricity vampires throughout the house. Remember to turn your computer off, particularly if you have external speakers on your computer. I was in the habit of leaving my speakers on all the time. I just wasn't paying attention. And then I realized I'm just wasting all this energy for no reason. I'm very careful about turning my speakers off. If you can turn the temperature down on your water heater, that will save you money. Wash your clothing on cold. Get a drying rack and hang your clothes to dry, or hang them outside on the line if you're able to. You will save so much money and save the life of your clothing if you don't use the dryer. I know for some things you're going to want to use the dryer, but see if you can hang your towels to dry. I know they get kind of stiff and crispy, and then pop them into the dryer just for 2 minutes at the end to get rid of that crunch. Draw the curtains to keep the cold out. You can put bubble wrap up on your windows as insulation. Next, you're going to learn to make do and mend. What do you think it was like living in the Great Depression? If you needed something, but you didn't have any money, you didn't get that something that you thought you needed. You just made do with what you had. If you had torn clothing, you knew how to sew and you mended it. You might make your own clothing. You would sew your own buttons back on and hem a skirt. It's not just about sewing and mending fabric, literally, but you just have to get into a mind frame of saying, what I have is good enough. I'll make do with what I have. Even if I think I need something else, I'm just going to make do with what I've got. If something breaks, I'll just learn to fix it, or I'll just learn to go without. It's actually okay to go without some things. We don't each need to own every single material possession that exists in the world. You can make your own gifts. You can do haircuts at home. Do your nails at home. Get rid of expensive hobbies and get rid of your gym membership. There are plenty of ways to exercise without having to go to the gym. Now, while you're paying off debt, your entertainment budget has gone way down. It might be zero. It might be $5 a week or less. You need to figure out how to have fun for free. Every community has free events, and your local library is probably the best source of free entertainment. Got to get creative. You got to work at it. Have a theme night at home where you cook food of a certain international cuisine. Learn some new card games. When I was growing up, we played cards all the time. I spent summers with my grandmother, and where she was, we had TV, but back in the 70s, there weren't that many TV channels to begin with, and where we were, we didn't get reception for very many, and plus, my grandmother kind of controlled the TV, so we were watching the Lawrence Welk Show, or we were doing jigsaw puzzles together, playing cards, playing Scrabble. We knew a lot of different card games, and those were great times, sitting around together as a family playing games. It wasn't just once a week, family game night. It's kind of what we did every night, basically, unless Lawrence Welk was on. We were playing games together because we had to make our own fun. That was just life. There wasn't constant entertainment being thrown at us. That was not the norm. And finally, to help you cut your spending, change your environment. It's very hard to exercise willpower. It's much easier to control your environment. So by that I mean, don't go to the mall. If you're used to going to the mall, if you're used to shopping for therapy and for entertainment, you can't do that anymore. So don't even go to the mall. Don't go to the mall and think you can exercise self-restraint. Just don't go. If you're used to doing a lot of online shopping, you just can't go on those sites anymore. Shopping is not therapy. Shopping will not fix your problems. Shopping might anesthetize you for the moment. It might distract you. It might give you a certain rush to buy a new pair of shoes, but it's not going to make you happy. It is not going to fix your problems. And in fact, if you're spending money that you don't have, shopping is going to make you miserable in the long run. You're going to have a lot of material possessions you don't need, a lot of bills you wish you didn't have. When I was a teenager, the thing to do to hang out with your friends was to go to the mall, because there weren't that many places you could just go and hang out, and the mall was a safe place where you and your friends could just wander around for a while. And it seemed entertaining enough, but now to me that seems like such a strange destination, such a strange idea to think you want to hang out with your friends at this shrine to materialism and to competitive consumption. By which I mean not only keeping up with the Joneses, but trying to keep up with the Rockefellers. There you go, right off the bat, you got 10 strategies, 10 ways to start saving money right away, slashing your expenses so you can get out of debt. Because you can do it. You can get out of debt and stay out of debt. I can tell you, living debt-free feels great, and anybody can do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. Bye.